Well, welcome back. I mean, I'm just so excited if you came back.
I know.
You saw episode one. We are on episode two of No Divorce Drama. And I'm Courtney Fields, licensed clinical social worker. I'm an expert in child welfare and divorce and child custody. And I have devoted my career to working with this population and sharing with them, sharing with everybody the concept of the drama triangle. And then here's my co-host, Liv.
So I'm Liv Matthews. I am not a licensed clinical social worker. I am not a mental health professional, and I have no experience with the legal system. All I have is a lot of personal life experience with divorce and with the drama triangle, and a very close friendship with Courtney. So we decided, sure, let's set up kind of a podcast that's like the expert and the non-expert kind of posing questions and having fun discussions. So that's what we are doing. Our first episode, Courtney, we gave kind of a general introduction to ourselves, and then also a really good just kind of overview of the drama triangle, what it is, what that means, and we kind of just vaguely talked about the roles and compassionate neutrality. We had talked a little bit as well before recording. You had said that it was something that you talk to your clients about, obviously, and they kind of tell you a lot like, I wish I knew this going in. Like, I wish this was something I had information about going in. Tell me a little bit about that. Talk to me about that and that kind of that feeling that comes with interacting with a drama triangle. That was really interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, so 20 years as a professional, 10 years in private practice, working with this population, just working with other populations as well. And when I explain the drama triangle concept to a client, that is the reaction they have. Their mind is blown. They see themselves, no matter what presenting issue they came to counseling with, this will apply to them in some way. And it's something that I pretty much could retire if I had a nickel for every time somebody said, I wish the whole world knew this. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I would love for the whole to know this, but nobody's given me a position of authority. And then one day I was like, wait a second, I can just do a podcast. And then at least
Yeah.
whoever listens to it knows about it.
I
But
mean, it's like, if they're not going to give you the position, make one yourself.
right,
What
exactly.
are they going to do? Stop you? No.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just make it yourself.
Unless you're offensive. I'm not going to be offensive. Um, So what they would say in addition to that, which really just hurts my heart, is that they would blame themselves a lot too for not
Mm,
having seen it sooner. Because on the
yeah.
surface, it's a very simplistic concept. But this is your life you're talking about. These are relationships, and there's nothing simplistic
Yes.
about that. And
Right.
we're humans, and there's definitely nothing simplistic about that. So I really want to get the message out, particularly today, that once you hear about this and you have that aha moment, stop right there before you start blaming yourself for not knowing the
Yes.
more.
Yeah.
It's so important
Absolutely.
because I say to clients a lot too, like you're this close to your problem. You don't have the objective view. You can't be objective if you're being traumatized. You can't be objective about your children and if you're worried about them. So it's not possible to see this if you don't already really understand the dynamic. And I will be the first professional to raise my hand to say it can still get to me.
Yeah.
Still find myself trudging through the mud of the drama triangle, even at this stage of expertise, because guess what? Life, curveballs.
Absolutely.
There's this song, maybe we could link this song in the notes, but there's this great song that I love, and it's called Shit Happens.
Shit happens. I love it.
It's
I
like
love
a
it.
lullaby. I can't remember the name of the artist, but I'll find it out before we end and let everybody know because she needs a shout out.
Right.
But yeah, so it happens. So you need to know from the outside maybe what's happening to you. And part of the stage of healing is also just having an accurate understanding of what you've been through. It's a
Yeah.
very, especially with trauma. So
Yeah.
that's I'm giving to you today is an accurate understanding of what it has been like for you, more than likely, to live in a drama triangle of some kind at
Yeah,
some.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's, you know, in terms of the like, obviously I'm not a professional, we've already gone over that, but I somehow have managed to like corner myself into being the friend that people go to for advice. And I don't know how this happens. It just did. And so they they show up to me and they're talking, and especially since I've started working with you, and a lot of that comes with just like sharing, you know, the way you do with friends, with family members about the work you do, especially if it's something that you're excited about, you're passionate about, the way that you and I are passionate about this. And I'll start describing the drama triangle, you know, to my best understanding, to which I always also include like a metaphorical asterisk where I'm like, don't quote me on that. I I'm not a professional. I could be getting this totally wrong. Don't quote me. But here's a really awesome video that Courtney made. So here you go. You can watch that. I stay linking that YouTube video to friends and family all the time. So but it's a very similar like click that I see with them, where they're like, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. And I'm like, oh, once you know about it, you don't stop seeing it. It's everywhere. Like it's impossible to stop seeing it. You see it everywhere.
And
So
it can
it's,
feel
yeah.
very overwhelming right after that aha, not only if you tend to blame yourself, but also if you just like think about the analogy of, um, like a big tangled ball of yarn, just completely
Yes.
tangled up. And your task is to untangle it. And someone knows how to do that. And they're taking you step by step, but you still can get overwhelmed by the amount of work that it feels like needs to be done to detach
Mhm.
yourself from that. But you'll learn later on in this podcast, and repeated throughout all the episodes, is that consistency is key. Consistent boundaries are key. So, slow and steady wins the race here is the overarching solution. But why don't we go ahead and get started with understanding a little bit more for our listeners to know, like, are you in a drama triangle? How do you know?
Yes, absolutely. And you had said, you know, kind of coming back to it shows up everywhere once you start seeing it.
Yes.
We talked, because obviously the podcast is called No Divorce Drama. So this is primarily something that you, especially with the work that you do with the Divorce Resource Center, you see a lot with divorce and litigation and in those kinds of things. So I imagine with that, and definitely tell me if I'm wrong, that the drama triangle has a very kind of specific connection to divorce and litigation and family law. Um, Explain that to me, because I know nothing about the like actual legal side of that at all, or any of it really. So
Explain it, but you're also going to hear how universal it is too. So
right.
let's just recap. The drama triangle is a worldview, and your worldview can be affected by situations as well. It can be affected by trauma. It can change over time. So at whatever point in time that you're involved in a drama triangle, your view of your world and everything in it is limited to three categories, the 3 points of the triangle: the victim, the persecutor, and the rescuer. Now, in a court of law, you have a plaintiff, a defendant, and a judge.
Yes.
I mean, that is your trifecta. Here to the table here, and there's one up here. So even physically, you see where we're going with this.
Yes.
So an attorney's job is to win, and a judge's job is to decide. And so each attorney is presenting their case. Now, presenting the case typically involves making the other person look bad, especially in family law. Because if you're in family law and you're fighting over children, more than likely, either children or money, one or the other.
Yeah.
Either way,
Yeah.
You're going to be pointing fingers. So just the dynamics of the judicial system is to make a decision about who is mostly right, who is mostly wrong. It's a very what we call dichotomous, black and white. The law is the law. And the judge is going to interpret it. So when you have a divorce battle or a child custody battle, you're trying to win. You're trying not to be the victim. And if you have to be the persecutor to try to win, and you want to be rescued by the judge, right?
Yeah.
So you go in wearing that hat and changing those hats to be able to get to the point that you feel successful having gone through litigation. But in your world, in your life, it can look very different. I oftentimes see people who say, like, hey, you're telling me as my therapist that maybe it's a good idea that I do X, Y, and Z, but my attorney says that I should not do X, Y, and Z. I should do A, B, C. And I'm like, yeah, we have different goals. My goal is to help you in front of the judge in therapy. My goal is to help you navigate this difficult life circumstances without losing your mind.
Right.
So there can be, competing goals there, and it can be difficult to be involved in that. So, and then divorce in and of itself is a schism. It's saying this worked before, and it wasn't it may have been a circle. Think about a family and the concept of a circle, togetherness and equality and all that. But divorce doesn't happen necessarily because both parties at the same moment, for the same reasons, decided to, how about we take our circle and we join it with other circles? It's usually much more of a, you broke a vow, you hurt me, my feelings aren't the same. It usually starts one-sided in some way, shape, or the other. So the ground is just fertile. It's just fertile. And children of divorce, whether their parents divorce in the most healthiest way possible, just because of their developmental age, they naturally have something called a loyalty conflict, because they're very egocentric. And so naturally they think the world revolves around them. And that's developmentally okay. And then we also, especially with, children who are raised by their birth parents, we also often give them feedback. Oh, you look just like your mom. You sound just like your dad. You have your mother's eyes.
Yeah.
So we give them a lot of feedback that you are like a mini version of half your parents. So that loyalty conflict comes up, and they're like, I guess I'm supposed to choose sides, and you have to actively work to undo that. So children themselves may feel suddenly like they have this conflicting feelings of a drama triangle, and that has to be actively undone, proactively undone. And then also the egocentric part is where they would start to blame themselves. So your child may be acting that way. And there's a reason that we don't diagnose children and adolescents with personality disorders, is because developmentally they are little drama triangle people. That's just where they're at in life.
Right.
So they can easily get caught up in this because that's how they're still navigating their world as they grow older. So it's very pervasive in this field. And then just, you'll see it in other places too. You'll see it everywhere. I mean, whenever we talk about our country being divided politically, y'all, we are in a big, fat national drama triangle.
Yes.
Congress is in a drama triangle.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
each party is in a drama triangle.
Absolutely.
So you see it everywhere, So it's something that once you learn this in your personal relationships, it helps me just in general cope with the news, the little that I allow myself to absorb. Just understanding this helps me with that too. So that's why it's more specific and more prevalent in the divorce child custody field, but it's very universal.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had never even thought, like, I mean, we talk about this a lot. I had never connected like politics to it. The fact that it is still fundamentally, like, when you break it down, that's all it is. It's just a drama triangle. And the drama triangle, it's it's so rooted in personal perception of events, of yourself, of the other person, of all of these different things that, yeah, I mean, that fits seamlessly into politics, because that's exactly what politics is too. Like that
Yeah.
is a really cool analogy. I had not even thought of that.
Yeah. Well, we could spend a whole series of episodes on that if we
Oh
want to.
yes, we could.
Midterm elections coming up, so
Oh, we do. Yeah, definitely make sure you're voting if you live in America.
yeah. So, and it's funny, I just had the thought when you said America, it's like we're trying to rescue America.
Yeah. Oh my God. At all points in time. At
Is
all
America
points in
the
time.
today, or is America the persecutor? It's
Listen.
I
It
digress, but it's everywhere.
is. It really is. So, speaking of the victim, the persecutor, the rescuer, all these different things. Speaking of those roles essentially and how they break down, and specifically how they break down in with perception as well. Let's dive a little deeper into that, because we kind of did a surface level, like these are what they are. It has a lot to do with perception, but we didn't really like dig into that. So I think we should do that. I think we should focus on that to kind of give a really, really thorough understanding of that for anybody who doesn't really know or hasn't listened.
Yeah. All right, let's buckle up. Let's do it.
I'm ready. I'm so
Okay.
ready. I have my pen. I'm going to take notes.
Start with everyone's favorite role, and that is the rescuer.
Yes.
There are kind, compassionate, just nurturing, very giving folks in the world. We love them. We elevate them. We're so thankful for them. And they have lots of good qualities. But their strength can also be their weakness. And so a rescuer without boundaries, or a rescuer that hasn't learned the kind of boundaries they need, is like very tempting prey to someone who is entrenched in this drama triangle. So if you think about someone who needs to be fueled in a certain way, needs to be fed emotionally, spiritually, physically, all of the above, because for whatever reason, they're not able to do that for themselves, they will seek out a rescuer type personality. And nobody's mean to a rescuer at first, because then they're not going to help you. So you see the best version of that person at first. Yeah. And sometimes that connection can feel, I say sometimes, but let's just go ahead and say practically all the time, that connection can feel like chemistry, like sparks.
Interesting.
Serendipity. Name whatever rom-com movie you can think of when they like walk towards each other and it's just kismet. That's the level of dopamine that hits you when that happens.
It's like just a rush.
It took my breath away. Literally, breath was affected by this intense dopamine rush. And because we have so many wonderful fairy tales and romance movies, country love songs, I blame the 90s songs for a lot of my early relationships. Then you're gonna feel like this is love. Okay.
Right.
And it makes sense at that time. This person needs my help. They wanted my help. I gave them my help and they appreciated it and they took it, and we're such a good fit. But what it's like is like the yin to the yang. If you think about that symbol, think about this instead like a hook. This is your relationship. Your issues and their issues are a little bit different, but a little bit the same. And when you come together, oh, that's a strong hook, and that's hard to get out of. Now, if you imagine a healthy relationship looks like this, it's parallel. Okay. Then you can see why this how the drama triangle starts to form with that rescuer, and the person's playing the victim at that time. And they're probably believing the victim. I mean, this is, like you said, perception. So this is not a very conscious relationship going on here. But it can be more conscious the more deeply rooted that person's drama triangle view is. If it's like legit personality disorder, then this is probably more of an intentional act of manipulation. There's this, I went to this training on emotional manipulators and codependents years ago, and the speaker hit the nail on the head, because he said, like, you could have a huge like New Year's Eve party, there could be like thousands of people there, but the codependent and the emotional manipulator will be like magnets to each other. They will find each other.
They will. Yeah. It's something that is startlingly common. And another thing that once you are kind of able to identify it and you know what it is is another thing that you don't stop saying. And it's just like,
and you'll still
kind of terrifying.
In treatment, we have to work on seeing your feelings as clues, not as facts necessarily.
Yes.
So for example, if you want to know if you're in a drama triangle, if you have felt in this relationship like a victim, rescuer, or persecutor at different times, not for logical reasons, your own feeling response, your own emotional reaction to this person or to this system or to this organization will tell you first and foremost if you're in a drama triangle. Because feeling like that is one of the first clues, since you don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of the way the other person is thinking and feeling. You don't know if they're giving you, the real deal or not.
Right.
So the reason, the victim part will make you, and you may legitimately be victimized. That's fine. That's understandable. If somebody cheated on you, yeah, you're a freaking victim. But if you start to own that as your identity, then you're losing yourself.
Yes.
And you have to, in order to navigate a relationship long-term with someone in the drama triangle, that's a sacrifice you must be willing to make, is to lose yourself and just hop around with these two
different roles. Yep.
Victim today, got to deal with it. I'm a rescuer. I'm a persecutor. I have to shut down who I really am.
Yeah.
Navigate this relationship long term.
I mean, that's a big part of it. And I think that adds to just the kind of never ending confusion that is in the drama triangle. We talked before about how logic doesn't exist here. It's not like you can't reason with it. You can't rationalize irrationality. Right. And so I think that never ending, like it's losing your sense of self. And I think it can be very jarring to be in that, especially for, it's jarring at any point, but to do it for an extended period of time and then eventually come out of it and have to then look at yourself and say, I don't remember who I am. Like, I don't remember who I was. I'm sure, that has to be just
safe to be that person.
Yes.
The relationship would have ended a long time ago. So if you're invested in the relationship lasting, then you just naturally, because of being a compassionate person, you try to meet your partner where they're at, and you try to figure out, and then even on the subconscious level, you start to adapt. I mean, our brain is very adaptive. It wants us to be successful. It wants us to figure things out. But that motive can be our downfall when we're in this type of dynamic, because your brain's going to keep trying. It's going to keep you stuck. So one of the things to think about too is that this is why the drama triangle is contagious. This is why I use the analogy of like a sticky spider web. You may not be the spider that created the web, but you're stuck in it. And the reason why is because you have to navigate, you have to change how you have a relationship with that person to stay with them. So you have to mimic, you have to adopt that same worldview in order for the relationship to last. And you may not, it could be very subtle, these changes, but that's really what's happening when someone says that, I feel like I lost myself. It's like, well, you did what you had to do to be in a relationship with this person that you loved. And so that's the aha. After that can come the strategies that we'll get into about how to, once you realize you're stuck in that web, how to get yourself unstuck, how to get yourself untangled.
Right.
But you mentioned perception, which is really okay. So if we think about in all other areas of our life, like our foundations are very logical. At your job, you have policies and procedures, what will get you fired,
Yes.
Yes,
of course. Right.
An A is a good thing, an F is not a good thing. Like you have all these like A plus B equals C way of living. But so your foundation is logic. But imagine if you were in school and you not only had to get an A to pass the class, but your teacher had to also like you the best. Yeah. So now not only do you have to do the work to get the A, but now you have to be thinking all the time about how are my behaviors and my choices and the things I'm saying and not saying, what opinion is my teacher having of me about that? I mean, it's exhausting.
It is.
But that's exactly what's happening in the drama triangle relationships that you don't realize. So if you think about perception is the passing grade, not what you do or don't do.
Right.
So in order to be on someone's good side, there's only one option. There's only one role to play, and that's rescuer.
Yeah.
Rescuer is not equal partner. Rescuer is you do for me, and more than likely something that I should be doing for myself. But and so over time that can build resentment. And so, but if you ask for that, they don't feel like helping you that day. You're not getting. You're probably going to get a persecutor. So if, for example, you say, well, when you were sick with the flu, I did all these things for you. But when I was sick with the flu, you expected me to keep doing all the same things I normally do. Well, yeah. Does that pass the common sense test? Nope. But in a drama triangle relationship, if they don't perceive you as a victim, they're not going to treat you like one. Yeah. And so the other reason why people in these relationships get caught up in having to navigate it the same way is subconsciously they're having to constantly be in tune with how they're being perceived. And they start to learn that, I better put on a happy face and not show my emotions because it makes so-and-so uncomfortable when I do. And he tells me that I stress him out when I share my feelings. So I need to make sure that I shove that down so that he doesn't become the victim because I have that make him uncomfortable. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty common thing. So you're constantly, so when you're trying to get out of it, you are definitely increasing your awareness of how you may be perceived as one of those roles. And you're also being able to look at the other person's behavior through what the role is that they're playing. And this is one of the strategies to start understanding how this is affecting your world and how to start making a plan to try to get out of the triangle. So knowing how you're perceiving yourself and others, knowing how they're perceiving you. Because even though that sounds kind of complicated and it is really emotionally exhausting when we get into the strategies, but at least there's only 3 options. You're not trying to figure out like, am I trying to be his mama, his daddy, his brother? It's like, no, 3. That's it.
Just 3. That's it.
Yeah. So that's where it starts to get simplified. It's one, you got a 33% chance of getting it right the first time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got a 66% chance of getting it right the second guess. So, you're doing good. You've got some things working for you. So once you understand that it's all about perception and not necessarily about logic and common sense, then you start to have a lot more aha moments. And the other side to this that I'll just touch on today is also that this is going to create some grief and loss, especially if it's a partnership, a marriage, if it's a parent, because what you realize is that person is not capable of really kind of fulfilling that role for you. And you start to question, was everything even real?
Right.
And so there's a grief and mourning that comes along with and starts to happen a little bit before you start to really be able to implement the strategies to create less chaos in your life by having more boundaries with that person in whatever form it starts to look like.
Right. Right. I think it's really important to kind of acknowledge that grief and loss aspect of it, because I think a lot of people, when they're in a situation like this, especially because it can become so incredibly volatile so quickly, that they feel almost like grieving that isn't appropriate or isn't okay, isn't, like acceptable. But you're right. It is, yeah, or safe. Like it is something that is very, very important to do, for not only for your own healing, but just to really truly make sure that you are working your way out of it.
Find a community, find a safe person to vent to as you're going through this process, and find a good therapist. You want to make sure your therapist understands this concept, though, because unfortunately, if they don't, or if your friend doesn't, then the advice you're going to get may not be beneficial to you. So I actually have a certification course that I'm launching for mental health therapists and for clients too, to help them understand their own reality before they start going too far in the legal process. But it's so crucial that the support system that you have also really understands this concept. So send them to the podcast.
Absolutely. Send them to the podcast.
Advice, but I need you to do homework first before I
There's some homework you have to do. Yeah, and I'm going to make sure to include the link to both of those in the description of the podcast, also as we cross post these onto YouTube. So I'll be putting it in the description there. The link will be everywhere. We're going to have a link tree that I'm setting up in our Instagram. It's going to be everywhere. You'll be able to find it really easily, I promise. So, but yes, I'm very excited to see the outcome of those certification courses that we've been working on together. It's so exciting.
Well, it's just something, it also helps me too as a therapist to feel comfortable about who I refer to.
I'm sure.
The reality is that I spend a lot of time picking up messes in my therapy practice from situations that could have been prevented had the professional really understood the dynamics of what they're doing.
Yeah. And, we did also talk earlier about how it all correlates with divorce and also with litigation with family law, and how you'll have clients come to you and be like, okay, well, you said I should do, XYZ, but my attorney says I shouldn't do that. I should do ABC. We are also doing a certification course for family law professionals to kind of try and help bridge that gap, to kind of get everybody on the same page so we can work through that a little more efficiently and kind of eliminate some of that, which is really cool. So that also will be linked, of course.
Exactly. I'll just tell you real quick that I actually had one of my clients, and she gave me permission to share this, who's had an attorney tell her, you should be more flexible with the parent. And even if he's not consistent with his visitation, when he feels like he wants to be a dad, you should let him be a dad. And I was like, that's the worst advice.
Yeah, no. No.
With like a trauma triangle person, that's like, get rid of all your boundaries, let them do whatever they want.
Just fully re-enter. Yeah.
No, sir.
Just dive straight back into that.
Like the
Yeah.
certification course for you before you help anyone. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, we covered a lot today.
We did.
We
Yeah.
covered a lot. I think we did a really, a pretty thorough job, but of course, I'll have our email. It's nodivorcepod@gmail.com. Feel free to send us any kind of questions that you have, and we'll probably next episode, if we get some questions, a good few, then we'll do a whole question and answer segment. There's probably
next episode is also really going to be a focus on getting unstuck.
Yes.
Episode.
Yes.
And I want to transition before we go to our like celebrity corner.
Sure.
I don't know for sure, but in the news lately, Giselle and Tom Brady like literally finalized their divorce overnight, seemingly. But they had the child custody, they had the parenting plan worked out, everything worked out. I think that either their attorneys or their therapist knows the drama triangle and taught them how to do this. I can just imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I can just imagine Giselle saying to Tom, "Hey," her compassionate statement, "I understand that football is really important to you." And then her neutral fact, "However, I can't be in a relationship with someone I see 8 days a year."
Yeah, absolutely.
Time than you were able to give. Therefore, I'm filing for divorce. And that's a compassionate, neutral statement. Instead of pointing fingers and saying, "You love football more than you love your children." No, none of that. That's his path. It's not her path.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go our separate ways. I just hope it stays that way.
Yes, hopefully it will.
I feel that it
will.
I'm just gonna be hopeful about that.
Yeah. And since we do, have this fun little celebrity corner that we do towards the end of the show, and when you're sending in questions and answers, because I'm not going to lie, Court, I don't keep up with pop culture a ton. So every time we do this,
20 years younger than me, and I know more pop culture than
it's not my thing. It's not my gig. It's not what I do. So when you're sending in question and answers, if you can think of a specific, celebrity interaction, doesn't have to be divorce related, can be any kind of interaction like that you think fits in the drama triangle, go ahead, send it in. Either me or Courtney will research it. Maybe we should start doing it where like each week we present one that we think like, and then we just swap. Like I'll do one, you do one. I'll do one, you do one.
I'm good.
Which I think could be cool.
You may have to research celebrity pop.
Oh, that's true. That research might just be me.
Maybe when you get to be my age, you'll realize that keeping up with that makes you feel a little bit younger. So
I honestly am. It's like laughable. My younger brother is literally, he's 23 months. He's just shy of 2 years younger than me. The amount of times that I'll be scrolling on like Twitter or TikTok and something like a reference will show up and I have to text him and be like, "I don't know what this means. What is this?" And he's like, "Liv, you're 24." And I'm like, "Please just tell me." Like, I know. Like, no, just tell me.
It. I was the overachiever. I was parentified child when I was, the fun thing that will happen to you is you get older and you go through therapy and healing for all your childhood wounds. You kind of start acting like a kid again because you missed that stage of life. So that's just where I do play therapy. Like I'm getting all, I go all out on silly things. And no, but when I was your age, no, serious.
Very just like
grad school, I was in a full-time job. No, serious. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, Courtney, is there anything else you want to make sure to mention? Anything before we head out and do the outro?
No, I think that, just stay tuned because we're going to get into the solutions. I'm not the kind of person that's going to come out here and explain this concept to you and then leave you hanging. The solutions are going to come next and we're going to help you and we're going to get through this together.
We are. So like I said last time, make sure that you find us on Instagram. That is KDD_pod. I am in the process of setting up the rest of our social media. So as soon as those are up, I will make sure to link those as well in the Instagram bio so you'll be able to find them. But the Instagram is already up. So go ahead, give us a follow there. make sure that you're following and liking our podcast. It's on pretty much every single major podcast streaming platform. There we go. So we're out there. Make sure to give a like, share, do all of those fun things, and we will see you next time. Hey, it's Liv. Thanks for listening. While you're here, don't forget to follow us on social media to keep up with all the behind the scenes of the podcast, as well as some awesome bonus material from me and Courtney about what it is we do when we're not recording. You can find us at KDD_pod on Instagram, No Divorce Pod on Twitter, No Divorce Drama on TikTok, and just search No Divorce Drama, the podcast, on Facebook. See you there.